Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another Question the Narrative video, and today's video is going to be a lot of fun because I have my friend Dawnita Fogleman here with me from Prairie Dust, and we're going to be talking about Oklahoma cryptids because she has a lot of fun stories having to do with that. Hi Dawnita.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm all excited. It's been a while. We've been too busy having grandbabies to get together.
Yes. Yes, exciting times for both of us, right?
Yes.
Yes. But those are good reasons to not be doing things together.
Yes.
So, and it's a nice way to come back now. This is something kind of lighthearted, nothing that took a bunch of research or anything. But we kind of teased people with our talk of the dog man. I think in the last live that we did at the end of the video, I kind of asked you about that a little bit. And I thought, you know what? You have so many fun stories. Let's do a longer video. But before we even get started, for those of you who do not know Dawnita, would you mind just introducing yourself and telling us where we can find you, a little bit about you?
Yes, I'm Dawnita, prairiedusttrail.com. On YouTube, I'm just at Prairie Dust. I have a homesteading, homeschooling, biblically based quarterly digital magazine that I publish. And as a matter of fact, we're having this month a photo contest. If somebody would like to join the photo contest, then I've been putting information out on my social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and all the different places. I've been talking about, of course, homeschooling for a very long time. We've been homeschooling since around 1995. Just graduated our last one. And then I'm a fifth generation Oklahoma Panhandle homesteader. So as homesteading has become more popular, I talk about our experience and the experience through the generations that we've had. And of course, conspiracy theories are kind of one of my favorite things. So, and conspiracy theories tend to be part of the reason that people look into homeschooling and homesteading. So voila, there we are. I have my very own fancy tin hat that I wear sometimes, and I host the Tin Hat Talks, which you come visit me with sometimes. And I'm having fun.
Yeah, I remember the very first time that I ever heard of you was through a homeschool blog, I think. That was the first time that I actually heard of you, and maybe on Twitter. And it was always about homeschooling stuff. But it was actually the conspiracy theory stuff that you reached out to me first, right? And that was how we really got connected. And I'm like,
I think
another homeschool mom.
I think John Levi had mentioned you.
Okay.
I think that's where it was. And we might have bumped into each other in some of the homeschool blogging homeschool mom stuff through the years. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. But yeah, just lots of fun.
Yes. And speaking of lots of fun, you live in a very fun state. I could listen to you talk for hours about the things that happen in the area where you live. And I live in Pennsylvania, and it's a beautiful place to live. And we've got mountains, and we have some fun little folk tales and stuff, but not like the stuff that you tell me about Oklahoma. Every time that you talk to me, I'm like, I want to move there. If it weren't for the tornadoes, I would move there. But I found this, and this is some Oklahoma cryptids. So according to this, we've got the alligator man, the boggy bottom Bigfoot, the deer woman, Green Hill monster, the Ishkatini, little people, Oklahoma octopus, and the thunderbird. So have you heard of all of those by any chance?
Kind of. Of course, those images just kind of creep me out. They're terrible images. We also have Chupacabra and Dogman, and we have a lot of stuff here. You know, some of this, like the alligator and the boggy bottom, that would be on the other complete other side of Oklahoma from me, closer to like Louisiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start out with asking you if you could share any personal experiences that you might have had where you live. I know that you said that your children have had some personal experiences. What can you tell us about the cryptids in Oklahoma?
I've grown up with this. I was not raised in the church. I was saved at a very young age at a vacation Bible school, but had not been raised in the church. I was raised New Age, crystal balls, tarot cards, the whole kit and caboodle, seances for as long as I can remember. Had mediums who thought I was a special old soul situation. And I regularly read people's minds. So just kind of open to that kind of stuff for some reason. The Lord's always got reasons as we learn and get closer to him, and how he works things is a lot of times a lot different than what we think. But so I've been having, experiences all my life because I've been very open to the spiritual realm, and I recognize it for what it is. The dog man thing that we talked about last time. And I keep saying I'm going to have him on my channel and do an interview. These men, that's a little closer. He is one of these men who really likes to talk. And there's a show out of Oklahoma called, I think it's the Oklahoma Dogman Chronicles. And hopefully you'll have that link for them. They have a playlist on YouTube. Didn't I put that in the?
You did. I'm going to put that in the description. Yes.
Oklahoma Dogman Encounters. Yes. Well, he's one of them, and he's been on their show several times. And he does come out here, and he hunts coyotes. We have an overabundance of coyotes out here, so he comes out and he helps the ranchers by hunting coyotes. Like before calving season and stuff. So they're not losing as many baby calves whenever they're born. And in the process, he hunts Dogman at the time too. And it is actually legal in Oklahoma to hunt Bigfoot now. It's gone through the Oklahoma legislature, so you can hunt Bigfoot in Oklahoma. My husband has actually seen Bigfoot tracks whenever he was younger out here. Wow. I've seen little people. I've had imps, and we've all kind of seen like UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them now. And so, yeah, and the little people were actually in a hollow tree, and it was on some family land that my dad is like, oh, the little people live in that tree. So whenever we would go fishing along the creek, I would sit either in or close to that tree, and so that I could try to catch a glimpse of the little people, and occasionally I would get a little peek at them. And so, yeah, we have, and the Cherokee actually have a legend of the little people that came with them after the Trail of Tears. Yeah. So they had them over in eastern U.S. and then they found them here as well. And as you get older and you get closer to the Lord and more in the Word, and you start understanding what these creatures are and stuff, then it starts to make a lot of sense. Because whenever you run into a creature like this, you get a creepy feeling. That is the first thing that happens is, the hair on the back of your neck stands up, and you've just got this feeling that somebody's watching you, and you start looking around and being attentive, and then, you may catch a glimpse. But we've got just a lot of things in the family. Catherine, our oldest, was on her way home from work one day, and there was a trucker, a semi truck, parked on the side of the road, and the trucker was just out looking up into the sky, just dumbfounded. And she stopped, and she, kind of looked at him and looked up and she said, "Oh, there's a stock tank up there, isn't there?" And she said it looked like a stock tank just floating up in the sky. And he's, it's like, yeah, that's normal. This is a fairly unpopulated area out here. We do have, because it's such a rural area, there's a lot of military movement, airplanes and stuff. There's several military bases just kind of around us. And because of this being an underpopulated area, it's an easy place for them to do their training and stuff. So, it's going to be more active with that kind of stuff. I kind of feel like, especially whenever the military are naming their airplanes Evil 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and things like that. They're kind of like asking for it as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
But, it's just, we have a lot of different kinds of cats out here, not just mountain lions. We also have spotted and black cats out here. And so it's just, you think of the Great Plains as being very, very flat, but we do have a lot of canyons and stuff. So it looks flat when you're driving out here, but you don't realize exactly how much depth there is in the land. It's nice because we can see a long way. So I've got, my husband, we've put pictures from his P900 on my channel, and we can see like 75 miles on a fairly clear day. And so, doesn't really go with that whole curvature calculator thing.
Yeah, it does not.
But, it's just there's a lot. And then we have a lot of history out here because were out here and they were nomadic tribes. And then when they opened up the land out here for settlers and the Cherokee Strip land run and things like that, you ended up with a lot of Masons settling the land out here. And Irish, German, and Scottish people coming out here. And of course, they're going to bring their stuff, A lot of Catholics came out and settled the land. Most of them ended up being Protestant later, but, in coming out here, they bring their legends of their, their little people and all the stuff out here with them. And spirits follow families. A lot of them are generational. The familiar spirits definitely are very generational. So they will follow families and follow people. And so it's just something that people out here, they don't necessarily talk openly about. But if you catch some of the cowboys just kind of by themselves out in the wild, you get them to a campfire telling ghost stories and stuff, and they'll start telling you about all of their, stuff that they've experienced through the years. And it's interesting, but you start coming up with all of the information we're getting now on Nephilim and stuff, and it's like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah. I have so many questions now from what you just said. So I warned you. So I'm going to ask two of them right off the bat. Do you think that the reason that there's such an abundance of these creatures out there is just because of the history of it being the Native American land? And then on top of that, do you think that that could be an additional reason why there is such a military presence out there? Because all of this stuff is going on out there and they know it.
Probably a little bit of everything. It being a very rural area kind of helps because, it's easier to hide. There's a lot of space out here. You can, we've got miles in between neighbors for the most part. So there's a lot of area that would be very easily. Every once in a while, we'll have an older person, an elder in the community who's, dealing with some dementia or something, who will disappear. And you know, a lot of times it takes weeks to find them if they've driven their vehicle off into a ravine or something. So, you know, if that can, you know, happen, then it would be very easy for these creatures to hide. You know, a lot of times the trappers and the game rangers won't believe you whenever you say you see a certain animal. Every single time that we have gotten ducks, there has been a red fox that will come and get the ducks, and you'll hear a quack, and then I'll see that bushy red tail going through the prairie grass. And they're like, we don't have red fox on this side of the river. And I'm like, well, yeah, we do. You know, so it's just, it's really easy to hide stuff. We also have some anomalies out here that maybe not mounds like what a lot of people in different parts of the states tend to see, because the Dust Bowl really moved the earth around a lot out here. But Gloss Mountains, just east of us, once you realize, you know, and you've been questioning the narrative, then as we're driving through that little area, it's kind of like some canyon area, you start seeing what looks like sphinxes and stuff, you know. So I think there was, you know, civilization out here even before the Native Americans. And then as we start looking into a lot of the mud flood scenarios, we've got buildings and stuff out here that just don't make sense. So we don't have like big cathedrals or anything, but we do have buildings and things that don't fit the narrative very well. And probably the biggest thing that I think probably has really encouraged all of this is the Masons moving out here, and we had a lot of KKK. KKK was huge out here, and as first grade, we had a Black family move into the neighborhood, and their daughter was in my class in school. And of course, I totally befriended her because I am lacking melanin, and having all that beautiful melanin, I needed to play with her. And we had all kinds of fun. But they got ran out of town very quickly, very quickly. Very sad. Thankfully, the people have gotten kind of past that now. We had a lovely couple that moved up here when, about 20 years ago. And of course, when they moved into town, we had to invite them over. And our little ones were like, you know, really had to, oh my goodness, they were very, very different from what we're used to seeing, right? And the man, Mr. Ashley, we called him, and he just looked at him and he smiled, and he was very, very dark. And he said, oh, it's okay, I'm just a gingerbread man. And he, you know, taught them some carpentry things and did a lot of things with them. And his wife, beautiful woman, helped with the senior center, and we had a lot of fun with them. It was really nice that they were actually able to be here and become a part of the community, and the community was kind of able to get over themselves for a little while. But
you were blessing in the meantime, inviting them over and befriending them.
Oh yeah, took them to church. We were still attending one of the churches here at the time. Took them to church with us, and yeah.
So the Masons coming in, do you think they could have possibly been doing some sort of rituals there?
Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. The building that was the Masonic building close to us, it's being used for a community center now, and everybody that goes in there to use it feels the energy. You can feel it's negative, you know. And some of the Masons, I've known some of the people, you know, and they seem like they're really nice people, but there is a spirit behind that. There just is. No matter how nice the people are, no matter how, they're deceived. They need prayer. But all of the churches out here have a Masonic cornerstone. Every one of them. It's really sad. And then we have some church people. I call them my holy roller friends. Love them to pieces. But they have been going out into the area, and they put a stake in the ground on somebody's land, and they go around the land and they pray for it. Well, when they do that, they stir up the spiritual realm, and it starts causing, with these familiar spirits that have been following these families for generation, it starts causing some real havoc in the families. So they think they're cleaning the land out. They're coming out here and they're like, yeah, we've prayed all over the Panhandle of Oklahoma. And it's like, yeah, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Because you're doing that, and a majority of the Panhandle of Oklahoma has no clue what's happening. And then after you leave, we end up with divorces and people in jail for abuse and all kinds of stuff, because it just kind of blows things up. And don't you're playing with fire, and you have no idea what you're doing. On top of the wildfires that we have, it ends up being almost like and even the wildfires out here, the firemen have told us those fires are evil. They have a mind of their own. So I have no doubt that there are spirits running a lot of things, or encouraging or fanning the flames, so to speak, with a lot of stuff.
Speaking of the familiar spirits that you were just talking about, I was reading through one of those articles that you had sent me, and I'll be sharing all of these in the description box, but it was talking about the little people and the Cherokees, and how the little people would actually attach themselves to humans. And there was a photo taken of a Native American man, and when the photo was developed, the little person who always accompanied him was actually visible in the photograph. I wish I could have seen that photograph. I would have loved to have seen that. But it's really interesting, especially it sounds so much like a lot of the Celtic folklore that I read. They have legends that say very much the same thing. And when the human that they are attached to passes away, they then go in search of another one to attach themselves to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were talking about the little people, when you specifically saw them, two questions that I had came to mind. First of all, can you describe what they look like? I know that you said that you probably only got a passing glance, but what did they look like?
That's usually all you get is whenever you see these things, usually you're going to see them out of the corner of your eye. You're going to get, because they're interdimensional beings. So
Right.
they're not 100% in our realm. So it's not like you're going to look directly at it and see it.
Right.
So that makes it hard. And that's one of the reasons that, the dogmen hunting and the hunting Bigfoot and stuff, I'm not expecting people to actually,
Right.
catch or shoot one, because it's going to be harder to do that. Not that you couldn't. I'm sure somebody has, I'm sure a stray bullet has hit one at some point in time or something, but it's going to be a little different situation. It's going to be harder to, catch something like that. But I ended up I was haunted. And so I moved around a lot. I lived with different people. I was a teen pregnancy. So I lived with different people and did quite a bit of moving as a child. And I thought every place that I lived was haunted. Well, when my husband and I got married, we lived in an apartment to begin with, and you can say, okay, the apartment's haunted, right? Because you never know. And then we bought a trailer house, and we were living in town, and I'm like, well, you know, maybe the little town here is known to have been a Native American village. And the Native Americans always said a tornado will never hit this town because of the way it's situated, and never has. They'll go right around it. But then we moved the trailer out to another place, and I'm like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. And I was being tormented really, really badly. And Paul's friends who weren't, you know, who were definitely skeptics, would come over, and they would hear them, and they would see out of the corner of their eyes I had imps with me. And having them say, did you see that? Did you hear that? And I had like the baby monitor, and when there weren't even children in the house, and you would hear on the baby monitor, and it sounded like children playing and talking on the baby monitor. So, I mean, just lots of stuff. And it was starting to get bad. It was starting to get bad. I was starting to wake up and see them right beside my bed, see big dark entities. We were having to start, you know, just go through the house before we went to bed. And I was tormented really bad. And the church that we were going to, and I finally realized it was me that was haunted, not the land or the house. So the church we were going to at the time, the ladies were going to be going to a ladies' retreat. Again, it was a holy roller thing. I'm not a holy roller. I had a friend that was a holy roller preacher's wife, and she said, you know, everybody's just different flavors of ice cream. And she said, some are vanilla and some are chocolate and some are rocky road. And I'm like, okay, then I'm chocolate almond. I'm a little nutty. I like the way she put that. But Paul's like, well, you know, if the Lord provides the money, then you can go on this ladies' retreat. And he came home the next day, and he had a check for the exact amount of money. Somebody had hired him for a particular job and paid him right that minute. Now, it hardly ever happened. For, you know, he'd usually have to bill them and wait a month to get the money and all that kind of stuff. And somebody just actually paid him exactly the amount of money that was needed. So I went, and they really helped me dig into my past in a lot of ways. And we took some little wooden crosses and some nails, and we nailed things on the cross. And I came home, and Paul will tell you to this day, things changed after that. And then I had another friend, a homeschool mom friend, that started challenging me about some of the things in my home. She's like, why do you have a crystal ball in your house? And I'm like, well, you know, it's a family thing, and it's a knickknack. It's not anything I had ever used for that purpose. And she's like, spirits are telling you. And after she left, and she didn't push the issue or anything, after she left, I thought, you know, just kind of thought about it. And I'm like, you know, she's right. And I tossed it. And I went ahead and cleaned house, and I got rid of anything mystical, magical, the tarot cards, all of the books, all of that stuff. I quit using herbs or anything like that for a good amount of time, and just cleaned house. Anything that could be the least bit New Age or witchcraft. And I just really dug into the Bible. And we had started homeschooling at that point, and I used homeschooling as an excuse, as I have done a lot, to just really dig into things. And slowly through the years, God started bringing things back into my life, like the herbs, to say, hey, I had an original purpose for this. Mm-hmm. You know, it got twisted with time. And so, yeah, that's...
Yeah. So the imps and even not even just the imps, the fairies and the elves and these little people, what is your hypothesis on what they are? I know that you said that you have an idea of what they are. What do you think they are?
Well, I believe the Book of Enoch is, I believe that Noah brought the Book of Enoch, a copy of the Book of Enoch, over on the ark with him. And, you know, they're the disembodied spirits of the giants, of the pre-flood giants. I absolutely believe that. And when you see a lot of these things, you see what you expect to see. Right. So, you know, if somebody sees an angel, then, you know, if you're Native American, you're going to see a Native American angel. If you're Irish, you might see a leprechaun. If, you know, different, depends on where you are with that. Yeah. And I'm
you might see an alien.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And I'm Heinz 57 sauce, so I see it all.
Yeah, me too.
You know?
So when you were also talking about just the location of where you saw these little people, I know we're spending a lot of time on them, but I'm so fascinated by them. But I just wanted to share, this was in one of the articles, and this was also talking about, it actually gives specifically where some of these little people were seen. It says 3 miles south of Salina on the country road leading to Locust Grove, there is a small unnamed creek at the foot of a high range of rocky bluffs. The Grand River flows a few hundred yards to the west, and in this tiny valley was a beautiful grove of locust trees, which gave the name to the Cherokee village of Locust Grove, located there until recent years. High on these surrounding bluffs and atop those which extend down the river about a mile is the only place in the new Cherokee Nation where the fairies of Indian legend made camp in Oklahoma. In Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia, there were many villages occupied by the little people, always far back in the mountains where they were seldom seen. So have you heard of this area? Do you know where that is? I mean, I know that.
Yeah, that's in eastern Oklahoma. Okay. You have the Ozark Mountains over in eastern Oklahoma. It's very, very different from this part of Oklahoma. So yeah, the Cherokee didn't make it out as far as where we're at. This is where the Cheyenne Arapaho were. As a matter of fact, I graduated with one of General Custer's great-great-granddaughters. So this is bad stuff happened around here. But what the Cherokee had, you know, there are the same basic legends in the different tribes going all the way out west. They just called them different things. They thought of them different ways and stuff. Yeah. So, you know,
it's very similar for how it is, you know, worldwide. So many different stories, but everyone has their own name, their own variation. Yes. But you can tell that it's all talking about the same sort of entity or creature, depending on what you're, you know, what you're referring to.
Yeah. And some of them are more physical than others. You know, the little people, the leprechauns, the imps, the little things like that tend to be less physical. And then, you know, something like Dogman, Bigfoot, the Greys, things like that tend to be a little more physical. And what exactly is happening, you know, it's so hard to say. There's so many theories on what could be happening, that, you know, why some of them are more physical than others. And we've even got DNA samples. And I have found of Bigfoot for a very, very long time. Very long time. So, you know, and they have human mitochondrial female mom DNA and then unknown dad DNA, which is what we would expect, right? So at some point in time, it's happened again somehow. And, you know, it's just, it's so hard to say, you know.
So with the dog man, my question is with the dog man is, he is something different than a werewolf, correct? I have heard
it is
anonymously, and I'm like, no, I don't think that's the same thing.
Yeah, a werewolf and a skinwalker are closer to the German lichen. Is that what they call them? I can't remember.
Yes, lycanthrope.
Yeah. Lycanthrope. And the skinwalker that would be further out west and more Arizona-ish area. That would be more like a werewolf. But no, Dogman is more, they run around with the coyotes. They hang out with the coyotes. So it would be more of a coyote type thing. I've really kind of wondered, since we've learned more about like Saint Christopher and what do they call the
Cynocephaly?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm probably saying it right. Or cynocephalic. I don't know how to pronounce it. I can spell it. I can't pronounce it.
The canine dudes.
Yes.
I wonder if it's not something similar to that, but Dogman does seem to be wild, you know. And if you're talking to the Native Americans, and it depends on which tribe you're kind of talking to and who you're talking to, they'll get kind of nitpicky about what creatures or what and stuff. But, you know, Zeus got around. And if some of Zeus's children got together, you could end up with all kinds of mixtures on things. So I think that's part of it, because just south of us, there's also stories of Chupacabra down into the Texas Panhandle. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things. And we've seen dragons. The girls have seen. Now, the Oklahoma dragon is not one with legs at all. So I can't remember what that's called. You'll have to get Catherine on here sometime to talk about the different kinds of dragons and stuff. But they've seen the dragon that's like a snake with wings type of thing. So, yeah, there's just...
That sounds almost like the fiery serpents from the Old Testament.
I don't know. I think the fire in it might be because there's a difference between a dragon and a wyvern, and then those, you know, they're kind of different whether or not they've got legs, and if they've got 2 legs or if they've got 4 legs, you know. So there's different kind of creatures there. Yeah.
Speaking of different kind of creatures, you mentioned the chupacabra, and I've noticed, because I always thought that the chupacabra was really interesting. There are actually 2 different versions of the chupacabra. There is the more reptilian looking chupacabra, and then there is, let me see if it's the right one. Trying to find, oh, did I not get it? No, somehow I missed it, but I had a photo of, it was more of an animal looking chupacabra, like a canine, almost like, I've heard them described as possibly being wolves with mange. Which type do you know of? I think the canine
would be a mix of the Dogman, you know, of the Mexican chupacabra legend coming up, and then the Dogman. And like I said, you kind of see what you are expecting to see with this kind of thing, you know, because we have also had in Oklahoma, we've had satyrs, or what I would kind of call satyrs, goat men, you know. So and they do legitimately seem to hang out around bridges, you know, the billy goats bridge thing. They legitimately seem to hang out at bridges. So I've heard of other stories similar to that, where there was it in the Appalachians maybe? I don't remember, but there was some sort of goat man, and people always told you to stay away from this one bridge because so many people passed away there somehow, and a lot of the people attributed it to this thing that was a goat on top and then human on the bottom. So is that similar to, or is it something different? Similar, yeah. In between Dallas, Texas, and Oklahoma, there's the river in between Oklahoma and Texas, and the bridges along there. People will say, "Yeah, don't get out by the bridge there." So, yeah.
Wow. Also, you were talking about how you have different kinds of cats there, and just out of curiosity, if you ever heard of the howler. These are just all animals that I was just reading about that are supposedly somewhere in Oklahoma. I didn't know if this is, they said that they believe that this is possibly either a canid or a felid. So either in the dog family or in the cat family. And some believe that it could possibly be a hybrid of the 2, but it has horns.
It does. Yeah. it does. I mean, of course, this is an artist rendition, but like I said, you know, people are going to see. So it was, someone might look at this and out of the corner of their eye see, you know, Dogman. Some might look at it out of the corner of their eye and see Bigfoot, and you know, it's just different. People are going to see different things.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I noticed with the accounts of Dogman too, is that a lot of times it will be the same area and it will sound like they're describing the same people, but some people will describe it as being a Dogman and other people will say that they saw a Bigfoot. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think that a lot of times it's about perspective, about what you're expecting to see. Absolutely. Yeah. Now back to the dragons. I know that I've shared this with you here, and well, not here, but on your Tin Hat Talks, and I've shared it on my channel also, that two of my daughters saw. So there's one thing that happened here in good old Pennsylvania, is that two of my older daughters did see what they swear was a dragon flying in the sky. And the one daughter especially, she's just very no nonsense. She doesn't like attention. She's not one who would make up a story like that. She's just very matter of fact. She was very calm about it. Of course, I'm very excitable. So, and I'm like really into all this stuff, and I'm trying to like pull all this information out of her. And she's just like, it just looked like this. And then she just like went upstairs. She didn't really think much of it, but they described what, to me, I thought, well, maybe it could be a heron with the skinny tail sticking out the back. You know, well, they don't have a skinny tail, but their legs, when they pull them up, the herons do, or the cranes, can look like a tail in the back. So I was showing them pictures and they were like, no, Mom, that was not it. It was a dragon. So I don't know. Some people have said that maybe it was a drone, but it was far back enough that I don't think people were flying drones at that time. It was probably at least 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I think ours was around 10 years. Yeah. It seems like there were a lot of dragon sightings around that time, all over the world. It just seemed like there were a lot of videos popping up of dragon sightings.
Yeah, so. And I wish they would have taken a picture. And isn't that how it always turns out? You know, you just don't get a picture. But I think,
well, and then sometimes, because Paul did end up getting a picture one time, but he can't find it. He keeps looking. He can't find it. But he was taking a picture of something else, because he's always taking pictures of the sky. And then he went back and looked at the pictures later, and he's like, whoa, what is that? And it just, I mean, he took several pictures all in a row, and it was like in like 2 or 3 of the photos, kind of in between. And you could just kind of tell that it looked like it was phasing in and out of our reality.
Yes.
And I think that's why this stuff can be so elusive. So you can have things that show up in images, like a lot of my old pictures that my grandmother used to take. We could see anomalies in the photos in the background somewhere or something, you know, and we just chalked it up to dirty lens or whatever usually. But, you know, now looking back, I'm like, no, it was probably stuff that was showing up in the film. So sometimes you're trying to take a picture and you can't get anything, and sometimes you're not trying to get a picture of something and you end up with something.
You're like, what is that? That reminds me of a comment that I just took a screenshot of the other day. It was really interesting, where someone was basically saying that these cryptids and other creatures, they believe that they are on a lower end of the infrared spectrum, of the light spectrum, and then angelic beings are on a higher end of the spectrum, and that is possibly why we sometimes can see them and sometimes can't. I've also seen that the cryptids are lower vibration. I don't know much about this, and that's how sometimes they're able to phase in and out.
I think there's definitely something to it. Yeah. Whenever you put a specific light over like a diamond or a ruby, they'll just turn black. A lot of gems will just turn back. A sapphire, the beryls, the emeralds are in the beryl family. They will all turn into rainbows. So there is a difference, and the frequency is different, definitely. So I definitely think that could be possible.
It reminds me of, I used to watch this show called Sightings, and it might have, this might have also been mentioned on Monster Quest once, but it was these things that were seen flying around in the sky that they called them rods, and you couldn't see them with the naked eye, but you could take pictures of them. And sometimes they were seen in the sky. There was some kind of air show, and you could almost see one of the planes look like it maneuvered out of the way to avoid it. So almost maybe instinctively, I don't know. But yeah, and that was something else that I found really interesting, is that I think that there definitely are things that we cannot see with the naked eye. I know that a lot of people, when the aurora borealis was the other week, they couldn't see it with the naked eye, but if they took pictures of the sky, they were then able to get yeah.
I know there's been a lot of like thunderstorms out here and stuff lately, and people have been getting some really weird things in the sky. And sometimes whenever you will watch the lightning striking, you can see things moving in the background that are much, much larger than what you would think. And I think we get glimpses, of stuff.
Yes. So I've never heard you mention this one, but I'm going to bring it up because you live in Oklahoma. And of course, you have to know everything about Oklahoma, Dawnita. You need to be a walking encyclopedia of Oklahoma.
I might run short there.
Not just the Panhandle. I want the whole state. So my question is, have you ever heard of the octopus?
I had not heard of the octopus until very recently. It was one of my children that mentioned the octopus. Now, most of Oklahoma is known as the Frontier Lake State, but that's kind of a misnomer because a majority of the lakes in Oklahoma were built by the Army Corps of Engineers. So in the 30s and 40s, New Deal stuff. But I have known of people who have come up missing in our local lake, and they've drugged the lake and everything and never found bodies. So, but we can get some really big catfish in that lake too. So it doesn't mean that it's, it's hard for me to imagine an octopus, but I'm not going to completely. How would it end up there? It would have to be a cryptid to end up in an Oklahoma lake, because
especially if it's man-made. That was one question that I would have.
And unless, what were they covering up when they built these lakes?
True.
And if this was something that was underground in the aquifer or something, maybe it came up through there. So there is that possibility. I'm not going to put that. I know the oil companies, we get a lot of oil drilling out here. And Paul said long time ago, one of the guys on one of the drilling rigs told him, I don't know what they're drilling for, but it's not oil. So, oil and gas and a lot of water comes up out of this stuff, but I don't think that's their whole purpose. We've come to the conclusion that they've got something else that they're looking for or trying to manipulate in the process of drilling all of these. So yeah, there's more going on. No, we're like on a high spot where we're at on pretty big hill here. And at 3 o'clock every morning, the ground gets hot, and everybody who lives around this high spot notices it. Everybody wakes up about 3 o'clock in the morning and it's hot, and it's not coming from, it can be in the middle of winter time. And so I've wondered if maybe we have like a pyramid under us or something that's like a power station or something that's still trying to run or something. I don't know. There's something going on.
There is, and it's the giant octopus in the man-made lakes, because there are 3 of them specifically mentioned. It says that Lake Thunderbird, Lake Ulaga, I probably said that wrong, and Lake Tenkiller, I think it's called. But I have heard of more nesty-like creatures in other man-made lakes too. I think Lake Norman, is that in Oklahoma too? I mean, I know there's Norman, Oklahoma.
There is Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah, and they call it Normie. And I believe that's the one. It was either that one or Lake Pepin in Wisconsin, but they both actually do have lake monsters supposedly in them. Both of them do. I can't remember specifically which one was man-made. It was either Lake Norman or Lake Pepin. But same thing that I thought to myself was, well, how would it get there? But, you know, and you gave some ideas, and also just the whole idea of if there is some sort of underground.
Or if the dragons, you know, go for a swim, then you're going to do that too.
Yeah, that's a thought. I never thought of that. Or if they even have spawn in there, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's something that I never thought about. But I don't know. So so you yourself though, I know that you've seen the Bigfoot tracks, but have not had a Bigfoot.
I haven't. My husband's seen the Bigfoot tracks. And Catherine, you need to get Catherine on sometime. She has seen Bigfoot. And
she has? Wow.
She would come home from work just telling, she's just always at the right place at the right time. She's like, oh, I saw Bigfoot on the way over. And of course, we're not going to see a whole lot on our property because I pray a bubble of protection over our property. I did see a demon about a couple of weeks ago that came to visit, and I had kind of a bad dream, and then we were sitting down visiting in the living room, and demon popped up, and I'm like, oh no, you're not. And began just praying and sent him on his way. And so
did anyone else see it in your house too? Or?
I don't know if Paul saw it or not, but I didn't take time to think about it. I knew exactly what it was. So it's like I reinforced the bubble and doubled down on prayer. And, you know, we've had people who will come to visit that if they have demons, you know, that they're used to, they won't come onto the property. They'll stay out on the road to visit with us. If they have a teenager with us and they come to visit and the teenager has demons with them, the teenager will automatically just get out of the vehicle, go right back to the road. And of course, my children know what's going on, so they'll go out, you know, to the road and visit with them. But yeah, I try to stay very, very diligent and not, but you never know whenever you're bringing things into your home and watching movies and stuff, what you're inviting in sometimes. So you need to stay diligent and keep praying, you know, to keep that kind of stuff out.
Absolutely. And I do pray that too. Probably not as diligently as I should, but I do. And you actually gave me the good idea of a bubble of protection, because I always used to pray for a hedge of protection. Yes, but they can come in from above or below.
Yeah.
That way. That's why bubble is brilliant.
Yeah. And it was Catherine. That was Catherine's idea. We pray for a bubble whenever we go out, you know, places. And she's actually had people bounce off of her bubble before. And
that is
oh, wow, something's weird here. So yes, it works very well.
Wow. So last question, well, not last question, but last creature, let's say. Have you heard of the deer woman?
No, I have not. And I mean, there are Native American legends regarding animal people, you know, so that would maybe fit into that category. It could be one of the quote unquote goddesses or something. That wouldn't be unusual for like Norse, because we've also got Norse stuff out here. The Vikings were in Oklahoma. So, you know, it could be something from that people are saying.
Yeah.
Or it could be similar to the goat person situation as well.
Well, this photo here, it actually makes it look more goat-like, but the articles that I was reading is more of like a beautiful woman. She has antlers though, but a beautiful woman, and she has cloven hooves 4 feet. And according to those articles, she almost reminds me of the lady in white legends. Well, it's almost like that, where this deer woman will lure men into the woods to see if they're going to try to have their way with her. And then it doesn't end well if they do.
Sounds like a siren type situation to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
This really does make me want to look into Pennsylvania more, because I do know, like I said, my daughters saw the dragon, and there was a Bigfoot sighting in 2007 or 2008, just not even half a mile from me. I didn't live here at the time. And I know that out in Western Pennsylvania, I'm in Eastern Pennsylvania. In Western Pennsylvania, there are supposedly Thunderbird sightings there also. But I should dig in a little more. Maybe it's not as boring as I think it is. Maybe I'm just not hearing anything. But anyway, I just want to thank you so much for coming on here with me, Dawnita. This was a lot of fun, and I'm sure the people are going to enjoy it, because you're so full of so many different genres of knowledge. It's like, I can ask Dawnita anything, like anything at all. I'm just like, oh, I'll just go to Dawnita and ask her. She'll know something about it.
Looking it up. It's always fun to visit, though.
Oh, thank you so much. But anyway, that's all that I have for all of you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my YouTube membership or Dawnita's page, I just want to get that in there, Prairie Dust. Head on it over there and check that out. And you are on prairiedusttrail.com, right?
Yes.
And I will leave Dawnita's information also in the description box as well. If you are not following her already, I highly suggest you do that, because she's a lot of fun. But anyway, I hope you all have a great day.